This segment of Naperville Sports Weekly is brought to you by Boomba, athletic apparel and equipment.
All right, we're with Coach Mike Adams for Naperville Central girls swimming and diving. First of all, Coach, thanks for letting us get out here on the pool deck and have some time with you.
Hey, appreciate being here.
All right, so let's talk about last season a little bit. This is something I like to talk about with coaches first when we do these interviews, just to get a little bit of background about what happened last year, a little bit of context for this season. 10th in state, great divers, great swimmers. Just kind of walk me through last season and what it was like for you as a coach.
Well, last season was, my first year with coaching girls at Naperville Central. I thought we had a very solid season. Girls worked hard. We swam well at conference, sectionals, and had some good swims at the state meet.
And going into this year, you still have Sydney Dussel, who's your all-state diving champion from last year in the IHSA state meet. We know what you have as a diving team, but as a swimming team, you still have some returning swimmers. Kind of walk us through what you have this year on your swimming team.
We have a number of state returning swimmers. We've got Sydney Weeks coming back. We've got Beth Ryan. We've got Caitlin Gacciuni. And we have a number of other swimmers behind them, backing them up for this season.
And as you mentioned, last season, your first as for the girls' side of things. What was that like kind of transitioning over?
Most of the girls I've coached before, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. They have an idea of how I coach, what I expect. I think that it was kind of I don't want to say culture shock, but they might not have been used to what we're doing. I think this year they're transitioning into it a little bit better. We get a little better each and every week.
Looking at, as you mentioned, getting better each and every week. It's still early on in the season, so obviously there's going to be a couple of bumps along the way. But early going, how would you grade the way the team has performed this season so far?
I think very well. We've, last week we were second at a 12-team invitational. We finished behind the #1 team in the state. We had a number 5 team come in here the first week of the season, and we beat them. So I think we're off to a good start. We just have to, not to quote, Bull Durham, but it's really one game at a time, and it really is that type of thing. One practice at a time, and we just kind of go from there.
So swimming's a little unique because the training sessions, practice sessions are so important to how the team succeeds or doesn't succeed come meet day. Walk us through what you do as a coach on a practice day just like this.
Well, I can't compare myself to other coaches because I don't know what they do. The first thing is the girls have to be here every day. Secondly, they've got to try every day. And so we do a number of different things. I mean, someday it might be aerobic, someday it might be speed work. We try to mix it up as much as possible so it's a little bit refreshing. And, we try to challenge them every day.
Let's talk about Sydney Dussel a little bit. We've touched on the swimmers, now back over to the diving side of things. Just an incredible year for her last season. What are the expectations like for her personally, do you think, and maybe for her as a coach this season?
You know what? I think the biggest thing is you want Sydney to have fun and to get better and better. We try not to put, too much pressure on the girls, either diving or swimming, because they know what's on the line. So to go and tell them that they need to do this and this, otherwise, we try to stay away from that. But, just the little that I've seen of Sydney, she's in much better shape this year than last year. So again, she just has to relax, have fun, and do the best she can. And if that happens, good things will happen.
I think that's a great point. It's not just exclusive to Sydney. That's every athlete that you coach. You want them to have fun because sometimes a high schooler is going through so many things beyond just the athletic side of things. So to have fun here.
It's the athletics, but you don't want to put such enormous pressure on the girls that, they're, the more pressure on them, they can't relax and just have fun. I want them to stay in the moment, and I want them to race.
Let's talk about the racing here over the course of the season so far and how the mental aspect plays into that. Now, when you talk to your girls, how much do they kind of remember from a race right after they get out of the pool? Is it just kind of a blur for them? And if so, how do you kind of use past races for them as a teaching tool so that they get better in the future?
I think that, you know, with every race, there's a learning experience, good or bad, and we try to point out what they could do differently so that they could be better, and also what they did really, really well that they need to use in the future so they can be successful.
Are there a couple of swimmers on this year's team, freshmen maybe, or divers for that matter, that we haven't really heard a lot about, but you expect big things out of them even for their freshman or sophomore seasons?
Well, we expect a lot out of all of our girls, whether it's somebody that's brand new or somebody that might be a state caliber swimmer. We want them to do the very best they can and swim as well as they can. So it's kind of like a united front all the way through. We really don't have anybody that's good or not so good. We're all looking to improve as a group.
Looking at the DVC this year, a lot of good talent in the DVC. I know you haven't seen every team yet, but from what you have seen, maybe from what you've heard, what are kind of challenges that have been brought up by other teams in the DVC so far?
We will swim Lake Park this week. We'll swim Glenbard North this week. We'll swim Wheaton later on. We'll swim North later on. We have a pretty good idea of who they have and everything else. So, you know, we're looking forward to competing with them, but we're also not just looking to compete at the DVC level.
And I guess going off of that, you're playing a lot of non-conference teams in dual meet so far, in invites, what have you. What does that do for a team? How difficult is it for a team to transition into a dual meet, for instance, against a squad that they don't really know much about? Is it just kind of worrying about your own side of things? How much scouting goes into it?
I think that, you know, no matter the situation, as long as you're getting up there and going, like last week, you know, we swam against some pretty tough competition. For whatever reason, the Lyons Township pool was absolutely freezing, and yet we were able to get up there and go. So every opportunity is unique and different, and I think the more we put our girls in that situation, the better off they're able to push themselves.
And just fast forwarding to the end of the year a little bit, I know you're focusing one meet at a time, one practice at a time, but what would you consider to be a successful campaign, a successful season by the time you get there?
I think, you know, like one of our mottos is to work hard, swim fast, and have fun. And that's really the basic part of it. If we swim fast, everything else takes care of itself. You know, we might talk a little bit, you know, about, you know, what we can do and everything else. But, you know, we talk about that privately, but we try not to vocalize that because I've seen too many people, you know, chatter in the paper and everything else, and as a result, you know, that may not be the best thing for the girls. So,
all right, well, it certainly seems like the girls are swimming fast and having fun out here at practice. We appreciate your time. Thanks for letting us stop by.
Appreciate you having me.